Man, I'm getting too old for this. Alright, here we go. Hello everyone, my name is Vincent and thanks for tuning in at Verciati channel. So this week, I've been curious about a specific topic called climate change. Now, rather than me telling you what is climate change, I have decided that I would walk around LA and ask random people. So in today's video, I've asked 10 people what is climate change, and here are their thoughts. Can I get your first name?
Ben. My name is George.
Emma.
Montana.
My name is Miguel.
Andrea.
Will.
Bo.
Isabella.
It's Matthew.
So the first question is, in your opinion, what is climate change?
I think climate change is just the byproduct of all the industrialization and cars and exhaust and stuff like that, kind of like locking in certain elements into the atmosphere.
Primarily the changing of climate around the world based on primarily human-caused factors like excess carbon emissions, I guess poor waste management.
The earth changing and shifting, especially in regards to global warming and temperature changes, which affects all parts of the earth.
Obviously, like as time goes on, the world gets older. As anything gets older, you start to have more and more problems as far as, carbon emissions and carbon footprint, and, the population grows, which means trash grows and all of that stuff, but we're not exactly offsetting it with recycling or composting or doing those major things that can balance out the age and growth and overproduction of people in the world.
Our weather changing over many years, and in my opinion, I think it's to do with the government and they're controlling our weather.
The idea of how our world, specifically Earth, is just becoming hotter. So when we think of climate change, we don't necessarily think about our own environment, but a lot of the issues that do get affected are areas like the desert that do become more hotter. So for example, Arizona is becoming hotter. Workers have to work more at night. This is just an example, but overall climate change is just the effect that it's putting to the environment.
When weather goes hot to cold, but in a crazy way, honestly. Just a variety of different factors that impact the way that people live their lives on a day-to-day basis, and it's generally caused by the increase of carbon and emissions being put into the atmosphere from corporations and subnatural events.
I think it's the heating of the planet, and it's caused by fast fashion, fast consumerism, and it's the way our planet is changing in result to humans.
Artificial change of, the climate caused by the actions of humans that are not directly related to the natural cycles that the Earth is going through.
Do you think climate change is a big problem in our society?
Yeah, I mean, it's a huge problem, and it's kind of a problem that's just going to keep getting worse and worse over time unless, from a higher up standpoint in a political realm, unless there's real action or force of change happening, it's just going to get worse quickly than it is progressively.
It's one of the largest issues that we're facing right now. It's something that if we don't address in next 10, 20 years, I mean, we're already seeing long-term effects. The fact that we've had heat waves in California, the fact there are parts of California that are on fire right now, those are observable effects of climate change.
Yes, absolutely.
I think as humanity has progressed and come up with a lot of different types of technology and ways that we live our life, that has affected the environment.
I don't know if I would classify it as a big problem, but it definitely is a problem, and we can see effects by climate change from like our Arctic breaks and the Antarctica areas where our ice is melting and other areas.
Oh yeah, 100%. I think it's more ignored though, because when we think about climate change in the news, it's not necessarily talked about as often. Usually what we perceive or what we see in our own like environment is like we don't see the huge dramatic effects that it does compared to other environments that are more likely to be more affected.
Climate change is crazy, especially from like summer to winter. Like it just gets hot and then cold and then just stays that way. It's really weird sometimes. It's a very big problem just because of the amount of problems that stem from it. You know, whether that's increased homelessness or other people being put out of their homes like you see in Florida right now. I just think it has so many ripple effects, and whether those are economic, social, or political, that impact thousands, if not millions, of people's lives.
I think it's the biggest problem in our society today. I think people are very blind to, and I'm sitting here using a reusable cup, which I usually have a reusable one, not a one single use. But I think the issue is more, it's not really on the individual, it's on large companies like Amazon, any big business, because as an individual there's only so much you can do to reduce your carbon footprint, and the biggest thing in that is taking flights, and a lot of people can't do that. But if a lot of larger companies and businesses made their products more sustainable, it'd be a lot easier for people to reduce their carbon footprint.
You know, firsthand I can't tell, but from what we hear from scientists and some people who are reputable in that kind of field, they say that definitely there's some climate change going on, and some glaciers are melting some places around the world, so it seems to be an issue.
What are some examples of problems caused by climate change?
Well, the disruption of biosystems and ecosystems in the particularly vulnerable areas, such as the islands. I forgot their name. Basically, higher tides causing the islands to flood periodically.
Sea levels rising, temperature changes. Living in California, we've definitely experienced that here. Summers are hotter, winters are more extreme.
You know, when we think of climate change, we think of the big extreme issues, but I think a lot of it is the day-to-day issues, the slow killers like, you know, plastic, recycling, composting, just the simple effects of like the amount of trash a single person consumes and makes in the world. I think that is the problem.
Droughts or lack of water, thunderstorms, tornadoes. I'm from the south, so I'm used to hurricanes, tornadoes, thunderstorms, most severe weathers. Like I'm not used to hurricanes, I'm not used to earthquakes like out here in California, or like fires. So those are new to me, but it's definitely a huge problem that we're having all over the country with many different kinds of severe storms.
One of the main ones that this is another example of why people are not cognizant about it or like aware of it, is that when we think about our whales, we don't realize how important they are to our ecosystem. With whales, they produce a lot of fecal matter. Like I know that word doesn't sound like it's like a good thing. Like it's just like it's gross, you know. But overall, that effect alone can help us so much because what happens is I believe it's plankton. Plankton absorb the fecal matter from the whales, and then they use that to turn into energy, and they bring down more carbon dioxide that goes to the bottom of the sea level, or not the sea level, but to the bottom of the sea floor. And what happens is that we're capturing all this carbon out of the air and then putting it back down to the ocean, where it's not more of a harm to us. So we need to advocate to not kill more whales.
Just pollution, like air pollution, water pollution, car pollution, like all types of pollution. There's a lot of problems, like if you look in the Pacific region right now, there's island nations that are disappearing rapidly, and I think that these people are being permanently displaced from their homes, and if something's not done about it, their entire culture and their way of life along with their homes will be disappeared within the next decade.
If you just look at the world going on today, there's natural disasters going on everywhere. Like glaciers are melting, rainforests are being torn down and burned. I think it's everywhere. If you look in the sky, today is actually surprisingly blue, but it's usually really gray in LA and very polluted.
From my understanding, it's that there's a pretty high chance that that rising sea levels could displace a lot of people on the coast, in coastal cities. A lot of the heat, a lot of the increased heat from when we have like a lot of the heat waves that we have in across the country. You've got a lot of people who can't afford to buy water, right? At least in LA we have a lot of homeless people. And a lot of those people just can't afford to keep themselves hydrated, and they die of they die of thirst.
And my final question is, in your opinion, what is the best solution to combat climate change?
There was this quote that I recently learned. I wish I could remember it to its full depth. But the only way this could really, like, if I were to summarize the quote, it was the idea that it's not necessarily the collective of the upper class, it's more of the collective of the lower class trying to be more advocative for our own like environments, because there's not enough education being given out to people around for example, I live in West LA. If it wasn't for the education that I got from a permit to go to like Santa Monica High School to like get education, I don't think that the same opportunities would be given to like where I actually locally live in West LA. So it really depends on just like education and trying to like be more advocative like through advertisements that I know it doesn't provide anyone profits, but it provides a welfare to like to the world.
All right, thank you so much.
No problem. Try to lower down all types of pollution.
All right, thank you so much.
I think holding larger companies and businesses accountable, because as an individual, it's like you can compost, you can have a single-use cup, you can not shop from Amazon, but that's only so much to do for one person. So as long as you hold larger companies accountable, they're the only ones that can really make change.
All right, thank you so much.
Relying on innovation, I think, is the first step, and finding new solutions to old problems. I think also what's important is convincing people in everyday America and across the nation that it is solvable, and making them feel like it's not hopeless, because once people feel like they can actually make a change, then they're willing to put in the effort.
All right, thank you so much.
Sure, thank you.
But I think just in general, what we need is stricter regulation. I just don't like the fact that you can pay your way out of being kind to the environment. And a lot of people, especially in government, are just flat out climate change denialists, which is shocking to me that we as a country and we as an international community can allow that stuff to be just parroted by our politicians, which is pretty disgusting. I know what I'm saying is pretty jumbled. I hope all that makes sense.
Oh no, it makes perfect sense though.
Yeah.
But thank you so much. Thank you.
I mean, I think best solution is one, just acknowledging that it exists and that it's a huge problem that, not only one person can fix or one community can fix, but from, I think, a political standpoint of like making huge change and kind of forcing people to, enforcing those changes amongst like citizens. I mean, there's other, parts of the world, like Amsterdam, for example, that really reduce the carbon emissions and reduce the amount of like vehicles can even be on the road in certain areas, and a lot of areas are restricted to pedestrian only or bicycle only, and that alone I think really helps. I think making stronger guidelines for people on a day-to-day basis will affect change.
All right, thank you so much.
We need all of these multi-billionaires and millionaires to put money forth the ecosystem and our environment to change. And if we don't help out, then we're all going to be homeless and stranded and nowhere to live.
All right, thank you so much.
Sir, thank you.
Kind of as a society, we have to be more mindful about how we use the resources from this earth, the gifts that the earth gives us. Not being so wasteful on both an individual level, but especially like on a larger scale with like large corporations and how they impact the way that individuals live their lives. So I think definitely just being more mindful of how we consume things from the earth and not being wasteful. Yeah.
All right, thank you so much.
Regulation on national level, not just of private citizens, but regulation of industry. And then I suppose putting pressure on countries which generate the most gases and other byproducts that lead directly to climate change, which I do believe are India and China.
All right, thank you so much.
You can start with just simple things like maybe recycle, drive like somewhat hybrid or an electric car. Just keep the environment in mind. If you're a business owner, try to do something sustainable and not have any too much byproduct in the ground around you or the air.
All right, thank you so much.
All right, thanks.
There you have it, guys. Hopefully at the end of this video, you guys now have a better understanding about today's topic. Now, before I let you go, I do have a final question to ask you. So based on what you already know and what you have learned in today's video, my question is, what is climate change to you? Don't forget to comment down below to share your thoughts, and as always, stay foolish, stay curious, but most of all, ask lots of questions. Thanks for watching, and that's a wrap.